Morning and welcome back to Sports Today. Every single morning, we bring you this video segment that helps you catch up on things that have been taking place in the world of sport whilst you were getting some all important sleep. Because let's face it, whilst the world needs sleep, the world of sport as such does not really sleep. There's always something or the other happening, and it can be a little tough keeping abreast with all of the happenings in the world of sport. But worry not, we've got you covered in that regard. And let's start off, since the IPL is drawing nearer and nearer, with a bit of a flashback from last year's IPL final. I am, of course, referring to the moment when Ravindra Jadeja, with 10 runs needed of 2 balls, hit a 6 and a 4 to ensure that CSK got their record equaling 5th IPL title. Now, what exactly this memory means to him is something that he spoke about in a recent video that was posted on the CSK's social media handles, and he described it as being one of his favorite ever moments involving Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Because of course, after the match was done, Dhoni ran onto the field along with the rest of the players, caught him in a bear hug, embraced him, and then lifted him. And as Jadeja described it, he said, "Yeah, that felt really special. It was my favorite ever memory involving Thala Dhoni. Thank you, Dhoni, for that." And obviously, Dhoni is someone doesn't often show a lot of emotion when it comes to winning titles, championships. He's someone who's a serial winner who has in fact made a career out of winning lots and lots of trophies. I would venture as far as to say India's greatest ever white ball captain. And to see him showing that kind of emotion at that title win shows you just how much it meant, not only because of course it was a record one for CSK, but also perhaps more importantly because it was one that was an improbable win. GT appeared to have it in the bag, but Jadeja just did Sir Jadeja things and ensured that the match spun on its head. Another bit of news, IPL related, and we have been hearing a lot of talk about Suryakumar Yadav and let's say his fitness, because there's been a lot of talk, let's say, about when exactly he'll get the clearance. Of course, now we know that the first test which he had, there was a bit of a setback. He didn't quite get the clearance, and in fact, he even went to social media, posted a heartbroken emoji on his Instagram story. So we know he didn't get that clearance, but we know that the clearance, of course, has to come sooner rather than later. Now we know what date it is that the next, let's say, fitness test of his will be held. It's going to be on March 21st, which is tomorrow. That is on Thursday. So assuming the test on Thursday goes well, then he would potentially, let's say, maybe be joining up with the squad for at least that second game, if not the first. At this point, seems unlikely that he will be joining the team for the first game, but if he gets the clearance sooner rather than later, he should be able to join for the second game. Remember, that'll be taking place against the Sunrisers Hyderabad in Hyderabad, and there's a 3-day gap between the two games as well. So he could very well be reaching there for that. Who really knows? Right now, though, a bit of news from cricket, but one that's not IPL related. Wanindu Hasaranga's return to the Test match field, let's say, has been delayed because he's ended up picking up a ban from the ICC. You heard that right? The same Hasaranga who quietly announced that he would be returning to Test cricket for the series against Bangladesh. Well, he has now been hit with a 2-match Test ban because of showing dissent towards the umpires during the ODI series that took place prior to this against Bangladesh. He snatched his cap from the umpire, wasn't very happy, and of course it does add to the, let's say, troubles that Hasaranga has been having when it comes to umpires. Remember, he had hit out at umpires in the previous series against Afghanistan as well, when he said that this umpire doesn't know what he's doing, he should probably be doing a different job. So all of those demerit points added up, and what's worse is that it meant that he'd be missing his comeback test series. Now the ban works in such a way that he would have missed either 2 tests or 4 ODIs or T20Is, whichever came first. Put it this way, if he wasn't playing the test series, then the first 4 matches that he'd be missing were Sri Lanka's first 4 T20 World Cup games. So maybe, just maybe, bit of a blessing in disguise that he's missing out only on the test matches. He will be available for the World Cup. But imagine you come back from a test retirement, you're making a comeback in a series, and then your comeback stops because you end up copping a ban for not being very kind to the umpires. Definitely a bit of a comedy of errors situation for Wanindu Hasaranga. Switching focus now from the world of cricket to the world of football. And yesterday's morning wrap, we spoke about how it is that the Premier League, or England in particular, were getting a regulator, an independent regulator who would, let's say, have powers to ensure that there's no breakaway leagues and who would ensure that football doesn't govern itself and it's governed by someone with no vested interest. Well, that regulator, who is yet to be appointed, because of course it'll need to go through a long process of the law being adopted after being passed in Parliament. Well, that regulator could potentially have the power to even force club owners to sell up if they feel that the owners are not doing a good job of maintaining finances, which would definitely be interesting when you consider how close it is. A lot of clubs have come to either administration or going under totally. So Personally, I am interested in how it works, but let's say we'll have to wait and watch to see how exactly that works, because again, everything with that regulator is all speculative at this point. More football news this time regarding Manchester City, and of course, they'll be having a key game against Arsenal in about 12 days' time. But they could very well be without the services of one Erling Haaland. Why? Because Haaland was, who of course is right now on international duty training with the Norway team, limped out of training, was filmed limping out of training, and he didn't look good at all. So means that potentially if he's picked up a bit of a knock, he would be at best touch and go for making it back to full fitness for the game against Arsenal. And that's a crucial game because again, right now City are a point behind Arsenal and Liverpool. Get that win, then they leapfrog Arsenal. But right now, if they have to do it, there's a good chance they may have to do it without their talismanic Norwegian striker. More football news, and Manchester United star Kobie Mainoo, who of course has been impressing in their midfield, recently got an England call-up, and that's pretty noteworthy considering that as far as midfield options are concerned, England very, very stacked, but they managed to still give the 18-year-old a call-up. He will be training with the senior team. Whether he makes his debut, something we don't quite know yet, but it does show how meteoric his rise has been in the United midfield in recent times, that he could get a call up despite the fact that this is an England midfield that boasts the likes of Jude Bellingham, Declan Rice, Bukayo Saka would be playing in midfield as well. So a lot of talented midfielders, but Mainoo still getting his due. Switching our focus now from the world of football to the world of tennis, and a bit of bad news if you're an Indian tennis fan. Sumit Nagal failed at the final hurdle of qualifying for the Miami Open. You'd remember he won the first match, which meant that he'd be going up against the Hong Kong 19-year-old Coleman Wong in the final round. Win that and he'd be through to the main draw. Unfortunately, he lost the final qualifier, so 3-6, 6-1, 7-5. That means it went the distance, and when it didn't go the distance, he couldn't unfortunately keep up with Wong. Ended up falling short of the final hurdle. Now the only way he could potentially make it through is if someone pulls out and if he's considered a lucky loser, just how he made his Indian Worlds debut. But right now it does seem pretty unlikely that Sumit would be playing in any of the remaining Masters. Of course, a bit of a setback considering he would have been hopeful that he could potentially sneak back into the top 100 of the rankings before the French Open Grand Slam. But if he has to do that, he might have to play some other tournaments. Last bit of news, and this one's notable and also tennis news because it involves Simona Halep. You'd remember that Halep had been handed a doping ban, and at this point it's been more than nearly 2 years since she last played any form of competitive tennis, because she was of course dealing with the fallout of the ban and fighting it, and eventually it was overturned. But she made her comeback in a Miami Open game in the first round, and that first round game, well, she ended up losing, which is no real surprise considering 500 odd days of no competitive tennis will mean there's plenty of rust to knock off. She ended up losing to Paula Badosa of Spain. It was a match that admittedly won the distance. Halep won the first set 6-1, but then lost the subsequent set 6-4, 6-3, which means her return back on the WTA Tour, a losing one. Nevertheless, plenty of interest to see how it is that Halep can resurrect her career. Remember, this is a former world number one who, very much at the peak of her powers, was handed a doping ban. Now, whether she can actually rebuild her career from there on out, considering especially the competition that's there at the WTA Tour, something that remains to be seen. But that is it from us on this edition of the Morning Wrap with Sports Today. Thank you guys so much for joining us. As always, if you enjoy our work, don't forget to like it, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell, leave us a comment, follow us also on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Don't forget to download the SportsTech app, and if you're already on the channel, well, right ahead, check out some other videos we've done as well, and stay tuned, plenty more coming your way through the day. For now, from my side, it's goodbye.